Celebrating 42 seasons on the air, Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension. Today on Farmweek.
Right now, Iowa needs disaster assistance, and it's time for Congress to act.
The Great Flood of 2019, still not over, billions in damage. Planting season may not happen for some. What next? Plus, fishermen say the rules are unfair, now other countries edging them out here at home. Who's studying ag these days? Universities recruiting a new slice of the population. And find out why this little girl went viral. Farmweek starts right now. Hello everybody, I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for joining me today on Farm Week. The CD says in a current report that cases of foodborne illness rose by almost 400% in 2018 and that they represent a major health problem in the U.S. Last year alone, nearly 26,000 cases, the vast majority of them caused by Campylobacter and Salmonella, led to 66 deaths. The USDA and FDA say they're working to improve their regulatory process. We'll follow up. Politico reports that Mexican farmers say they will continue to supply U.S. markets with tomatoes, even if the Commerce Department terminates an agreement between the two countries on May 7th. If the U.S. does withdraw, experts say the price of tomatoes could spike up to 85%. The pullback stems from claims by American farmers that Mexico is dumping produce in this country at less than fair market value. House Democrats sent another letter to the USTR expressing their concerns over proposed USMCA. Citing the enforceability of Mexican labor reform, they ask, quote, "What reason do we have to believe that any disputes over broken promises in the labor, environment, or any other chapter in the agreement will lead to recourse or remedy?" Meanwhile, advisors say the new NAFTA could add more than $100 billion in new GDP. Not surprisingly, weather is stretching the federal budget. A top FEMA official said recently that the federal government should focus on what he called truly catastrophic weather events and let state and local governments handle the rest. Meanwhile, as we'll see in a moment, farmers whose crops have been flooded by all the extreme weather this year are looking for help. Water, water everywhere, flooding from Texas to the Canadian border to the Mississippi River, yet to crest again. Flooding remains a story as winter snows are still melting and continue to leave large sections of the Missouri River Valley in disarray. Here's Josh Bittner with that story.
We had about 5.5 foot of water. You can see the line on the bins over there.
Kevin Cruz farms 1,000 acres in Purcellville, Iowa, straddling Interstate 29 and the Missouri River. His land flooded this year, much like in 2011, when the waterways corridor was ravaged to the tune of $2 billion. A bit less than damage estimates this time around. But Cruz says 8 years ago, landowners had 10 days notice devastation was on its way, as opposed to this year's bomb cyclone blitzkrieg and its aftermath.
We got it in the basement pretty good, about 5 feet in the house. We almost had the basement cleaned out. We had one more day and the water came back. Another 2 feet of water again. What do you do?
Cruz's corn and soybeans were already in the ground when flooding hit in 2011 and fully reimbursed through crop insurance. This year, he might be lucky to get anything planted at all.
Right around $150,000 I got sitting there.
Cruz has 25,000 bushels of previously harvested crop on hand, but says others held on to 8 times as much, and like him, can't access and salvage remaining bins. Low prices, oversaturated commodity markets, and trade disruptions have all helped lead to record on-farm storage in recent years. But those surpluses aren't eligible for current federal aid.
Right now, Iowa needs disaster assistance, and it's time for Congress to act.
The vice president called for a relief package earlier this month on his second trip to flood areas.
So my question is, could you speak to the impact?
U.S. senators recently grilled the Army Corps of Engineers, the federal agency tasked with dam management along the Missouri River, over flooding in the region. Critics demand flood control take top priority, but with limited resources, only Congress can divert from missions like navigation and habitat protection.
You'll just have to play it by ear.
Yeah.
Doug Astrup, an insurance agent with Iowa's Fremont County Farm Bureau, says area producers may still be able to beat late planting deadlines, but prevented planting provisions, up to 60% of market value, may not pay out until late summer.
A lot of us wait and see because you can't get to some of the stuff yet. So much still has to come down from Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota, and there's so many breaches from Omaha south. It is so much bigger than 2011 ever thought about being.
While some may sit out this growing season, researchers say it's an opportunity to heal land polluted with silt, trash, and other debris.
Restoration of flooded soils is really critical. So get roots back into that soil, get the biology working. It's going to be a matter of how quickly can we get a plant back on there and then go back to the economic crop.
Dr. Jerry Hatfield directs USDA's National Laboratory for Agriculture and the Environment on the Iowa State University campus. He says harnessing flood byproducts might be a cheap route to rejuvenation.
They're going to get a weed flush coming up this spring, look at what weeds are there and see how they can utilize those as a potential cover crop. You know, they've got tap roots and they really do get down deeply into that profile. I just prevent them from going to seed.
Kevin Cruz welcomes the advice, but thinks he'll be at the mercy of the river for months before levees are patched and water levels subside.
Oh, hey, that's Mother Nature, I guess. You know, that's farming life. Yeah, pull the boots up and go back at it.
So you want an easy garden project that actually spices up your dinner table? Gary Bachman says now may be just the time to plant an herb box. And he says it's easier and less expensive than you might think. Here's Gary.
As the weather starts warming up, one of my favorite activities is getting the herb garden planted. Growing herbs is easy when grown in an herb box made by some friends of mine. The Pine Belt Master Gardeners have been recognized for their salad table project. Now they've come up with another great idea, the herb box. They're about a foot square and 4 inches deep with a screen across the bottom. Let's go ahead and plant one. For this project, a pre-moistened peat-based potting mix works well. Don't worry, the screen in the bottom will keep the mix in. Now for the fun part, let's get planting. I'm going to plant a variety of my favorite herbs like thyme, basil, oregano, and dill. I love these transplants grown in the peat pots and makes planting so easy. The growers say you can plant the peat pot and all and the roots will grow through, but I like to remove the peat pot to let the roots grow out more easily. Scoop out a hole in the mix and place the herb transplants, never deeper than the top of the pot, and then water in. The herb box is perfect for easy access on the porch or patio. For more information, see the MSU Extension publication, How to Build a Salad Table. Herbs will add beauty and fragrance to your home. Bringing the herb garden inside is an easy way to snip fresh herbs to elevate the night's recipe in wonderful ways. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and I'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for life, right? That Chinese proverb leaves out some of the hurdles commercial fishermen face when it comes to providing for their families. In fact, a few of the regulatory challenges have steered many to frustration. Here's Colleen Bradford-Krantz with the story.
While stopping short of comparing sightings of other young commercial fishermen to seeing the Loch Ness Monster, North Carolina's Mac Hopkins has noticed how few in the Outer Banks seem to be preparing for a future in the industry.
Around here, I feel like there's really not that many young people coming up in it. My friend Brandon, he's right here, and we just got a couple of us good buddies, that I feel like we're the young crowd coming up.
Hopkins, who works on his family's boat fishing for tuna, mahi-mahi, and swordfish in the Atlantic Ocean, says while government regulations have helped make U.S. seafood some of the safest in the world, and have protected shellfish, sea turtles, and other species, some rules may be inadvertently choking out a way of life in oceanside communities. As a boy, Hopkins learned to fish running his own small skiff in Albemarle Sound. But regulations intended to protect sea turtles and other species have put a damper on the practice of children setting out on spontaneous fishing expeditions.
That's where a lot of boys start, young, and then they shut. You can't hardly do that anymore. It's very, very strict now. Mainly in the Sound, it's because of sea turtle encounters, which is understandable, but there's a very strong population of sea turtles in the Sound now.
Fisheries specialist Sarah Mirabilio, an employee of the Federal State Research and Educational Partnership North Carolina Sea Grant, understands the concerns of oceanside communities, but applauds the progress made in protecting the area's marine life.
So we want long-term continuance of our natural resources, but we also want to balance that so that we have a coastal economy.
Another threat facing the area is rising sea levels. Although experts disagree whether a predicted 1/8 inch per year encroachment is valid, Outer Banks fishermen are more worried about current financial conditions than losing 6 inches of shoreline over the next 50 years.
They have a lot of threats at them right now. They have a lot of regulations that are curbing how much they can catch. You have development pressures that are going on. The fishermen, they're more concerned about how are they going to put food on the table a year from now. They're not looking 50 years because they feel like they may be out of business in 5.
As far as hurricane and stuff and the rising waters, I ain't seen a whole lot of difference over the years. I mean, I know it's millimeters or whatever, but I haven't noticed anything. I mean, it's such a minute increase.
Peel, who is a 4th-generation fisherman, operates in the state and federally regulated climate, trying to balance the need to protect endangered species while making a living. He has to be careful to keep wild sea turtles out of his nets, and even a few close encounters with these creatures, such as an accidental catch, will mean an early end to his fishing season. Certain fishermen are required by law to have onboard video or in-person monitoring to prove they are following the rules. Some types of sea turtles, which must be released if accidentally caught, have been on the endangered species list since the 1970s. Local fishermen believe the population has rebounded enough that it is time for another assessment.
They're going to catch more turtles just by sheer probability. It's a numbers game. So if a fisherman has done really well, followed the rules, used sea turtle protections, the population rebounds, his fishing opportunity goes down because the fishery closes sooner, because the level of turtles that they're allowed to interact with is met quicker because the population is recovering.
While Peel appreciates how some of the rules have protected sea life for the future, he is frustrated knowing that fishermen from other nations typically have to comply with looser regulations. Like many in the U.S. fishing industry, he faces the cost of buying more expensive fishing gear that is safer for non-target marine life.
Yes, I know, understand that protect them, but put people out of business and lose their livelihood, I mean, that's going too far.
Dewey Hemmelwright, a commercial fisherman for 30 years who was appointed by the state of North Carolina to the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council, says leveling the playing field worldwide would help.
Other countries don't have them strict regulations. So what they're able to do is catch the fish that are highly migratory and send them fish back into our marketplace. So they don't have to have vessel monitoring systems. They don't have to have observers. They don't have to have certain gear restrictions. And so they're allowed to catch these fish, not use friendly gear out there, and allowed to ship into our marketplace. Puts a U.S. fisherman at a disadvantage.
Mirabilio says the situation makes it difficult for fishermen to implement good business planning and decide on future gear investment because they never know if they will be able to fish for 30 days or only 7.
And this should be sort of a a victory march for natural resource managers and industry. What we did worked. The protections we put on our commercial fishing industry worked.
It shouldn't be that, we force regulations on the U.S. fisherman and make him the poster child to go to everybody else if we're going to give them the marketplace. If everybody else was as eco-friendly as a U.S. fisherman, there'd probably be a lot more critters in the ocean.
We'll take a break right here, but coming up later in our final Farm Week feature, if you've watched this show more than once, you know that there are more careers in ag than just production in the field. Occasionally, there are more openings than applicants, and despite how few young people now grow up on farms, colleges and universities are filling the gap by recruiting yet another slice of the population. One school in North Carolina graduates more than most, and we'll visit there coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
It's a simple idea. Knowledge that transforms lives shouldn't be limited to those on a campus, but extended to any and all who want or need it, wherever they are. At Mississippi State University, we've been making that possible for more than 100 years through the MSU Extension Service. What began as an effort to extend the latest research to farmers has become something much more. Today, we're helping Mississippians from all walks of life, giving them the tools they need to build a brighter future. We're sparking the imagination of students around the state and inspiring the next generation of doctors. We're helping rural communities find their way to the internet and connect to the world at large. And we're teaching families how to lead healthier lives in ways both big and small. MSU is standing firm in its commitment to that one simple idea: extend the knowledge that transforms lives wherever they are.
ATVs are a ton of fun for people of all ages, but these powerful machines can also be a ton of trouble if safety guidelines aren't followed. Always wear a regulation helmet, gloves, and goggles when operating a four-wheeler. Long sleeves, pants, and over-the-ankle boots are also smart protection. Mississippi law requires approved ATV safety training for all operators who don't have a driver's license. This message brought to you by MSU Extension 4-H.
This year, there are about 20 million students in American universities. Not surprisingly, a fair number of them take courses in agriculture. But what is surprising is the number of students that up to now have been underrepresented in American agricultural education. In fact, one ag university graduates more African Americans than any other. Once again, here's Colleen Bradford-Krantz.
Pop quiz. What year did women first represent half of the U.S. college students earning bachelor's degrees in agriculture and natural resources? It was 2012. Next question. What year did African Americans first begin earning bachelor's degrees in ag and natural resources at a rate matching their percentage in the overall population? It has yet to happen. But there has been an overall increase across the country in the number of students earning agricultural degrees, and university faculty are optimistic about the growth.
No matter what your background is or where you're from, that everybody has a place in agriculture. It's important that we get these young individuals with these bright, aspiring minds to come into the food, ag, and environmental sciences.
As of the 2016-17 school year, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, also known as North Carolina A&T, was sending more African Americans into the world with these degrees than any other U.S. university. The numbers graduating from the Greensboro-based school are still relatively small. 41 African Americans earned degrees at North Carolina A&T that year. But many universities have discovered that having at least a handful of minorities studying agriculture at the same time can make a difference when it comes to retention.
The only barrier mainly is usually trying to get over some of the stereotypes. If If the parents have not had that exposure to what agriculture truly is, African Americans have had a greater history in agriculture than just the stereotypical slavery, Civil War times.
You don't have a lot of parents maybe encouraging their children to go after work on the farm. The farm was used as a resource to get away from the farm, to pay for college education, to find another job.
The list of U.S. universities that sent more agriculture and natural resources bachelor degree holders into the world is topped by Texas A&M, which also graduated the greatest number of Latinos. The University of California at Davis had the most Asian Americans earning four-year degrees in these fields, while Oklahoma State University graduated the most Native Americans. But considering how few young people of any ethnicity now grow up on farms, most arrive on campus having had little to no previous exposure to livestock or crops. North Carolina A&T's Animal Science Department, where 82% of the fall 2018 students were female, has a farm that allows students to handle a wide variety of livestock and other animals.
So you're going from maybe a poodle dog up to handling the cows over 1,000 pounds. Bull weighs over 2,000 pounds. So sometimes there's a certain amount of impression you can have on a person when they can handle something that big.
The department also talks with the many students who plan to become veterinarians about other careers in animal science.
And so we wanted to know that agricultural industry is very, very broad, very, very large, and that everything doesn't require you driving on a tractor. That right now, I think for maybe $1 for a hamburger, the farm only gets about 25 cents. We train the students to go after the 75 cents, and that's where the careers are right now.
Although he had little exposure to agriculture as a child, Durham resident Kamal Bell loved animals and being outdoors and decided to study animal science when he attended North Carolina A&T. He earned his teaching certificate and now teaches agriculture at a Durham middle school. Wanting to provide an option for his students beyond the school's basic agriculture program, Bell obtained grants and loans to purchase 12 acres about 30 miles from the Raleigh-Durham metro area. In 2016, he launched an academy specifically for African American middle and high school boys called Sankofa Farms Agricultural Academy. All of the current members, who must be invited by Bell to participate, are from urban neighborhoods in Durham.
When we look at African American boys, I hate the fact that when I ask a young boy or young man, what do you want to be? And they say basketball or football player. That's not a career that's solving issues in our community, but agriculture is. So I think this is a way that we can reconnect and start to heal from a lot of the negative experiences we have had that have taken us away from the farm.
The academy, which will eventually invite African American girls, currently has 7 boys who are responsible for growing vegetables, raising poultry, and taking care of bees. At least twice a week, Bell loads the boys into a van for the trip to the farm. Cameron Jackson, who is 16, and Jason Graham, 15, are both in their second year working and learning at Sankofa.
When I told my mother I first wanted to come to the farm, she really didn't believe me at first because she thought I was just playing around. But as I told her about Mr. Bell, she started to grow a liking to it as well, and she thought it would be really good for me. One, because I used to have anger problems, and since I came to the farm, I've learned to sort of now control my anger a lot better than before.
Graham quickly fell in love with farm life.
Mr. Bell was my teacher, and I used to get in trouble a lot. So as a way for me not to get in trouble, he'll bring me out to the farm, and then he'll talk to me about learning about agriculture, understanding about technology and the animals and the process, the life of the plants, and I just liked it.
Both boys want to study agriculture in college, and Bell plans to help them accomplish their goal.
I think agriculture has a really bad stigma about you're just going to be a farmer, because I got that all the time in college. But through me being out here on the farm, I've learned so much about other industries. And then there's so many career opportunities in agriculture that I think a lot of people overlook.
That was Colleen Bradford-Krantz reporting. Next week on the show, another story about love for the farm, a three-part feature about one family's decision to move away from the city back to their roots in the country. Who steps in to help when longtime farm owners retire? And what about the kids? They'll have to learn a whole new way of life. Meet Joni, Zach, Colby, and Lucy, a family that a year ago said goodbye city, hello farm life. That's next time on Farm Week. Before I sign off today, a quick story with a surprising twist, and it has a heartwarming side to it as well. A hiker in San Diego found this little gal, what he thought was an abandoned puppy. He called the San Diego Humane Society, and officers came out to take a look. It turned out this adorable little animal was actually a coyote pup. Officers carried her in, checked her out, and since then this picture has gone viral. The pup is in good shape, she'll be cared for, and most likely return to the wild at some point. You never know what you'll be seeing on the hiking trail. If you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on your website at farmweek.tv. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.